All right, we're gonna call the meeting to order. Any changes, additions, or removals to the agenda? I got two things. Just an update on ordinance enforcement and tickets, and the other one is South End Road. And I just sent you all an email, and it's informational. So our first job is to approve the minutes from January 13th. I'll make a motion to approve those. Is there any discussion?
I'll second that.
Does anybody in the audience have anything they want to share? Comments? Carol?
I just have a question. Are you guys going to have another select board meeting before town meetings? Do you anticipate?
I think we could probably fit one in if we needed it.
Well, only because so I think Angela mentioned the next one would be President's Day, the 17th. So she put down the 3rd of March, but that's actually town meeting day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we might not have one.
we might not have one.
Might not have one. If there's something pressing that comes up, and we need to deal with something, we would, of course. But we may not have unless there's some kind of business we need to take care of. We generally observe. A lot of holidays fall on a Monday.
No.
So.
Just out of curiosity, when do the booklets go out?
Town report, you mean?
Yeah.
It'll be another 10 days or
10
so.
days?
It'll be another 10 days
Oh.
or 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we do not have an audit yet, but we're anxiously awaiting one.
Ooh, you're back to the old tricks.
Yep. Okay. So agenda item number 5, NRCS, email from Leslie Wright, an update on Money Brook. Does anybody want to read that one?
Where'd it go? Want to read it?
I can read it if you want. Go for it. Hi, Angela. I met with the team that will be conducting the preliminary investigation. They are putting together a bid and will have that to us by February 11th. After we come to an agreement, NRCS covers 100% of the cost of the investigation. The group will begin. They will kick it off with a stakeholder meeting to make sure that they are addressing your concerns. The project manager has lots of experience with these investigations. He indicated that Money Brook problems seem to fit the program rules. He was more skeptical about dam repair. I asked him to look into it anyway, just to be sure. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm glad this is finally moving forward and hopeful that we will be able to assist. Lee Wright, he's from the Natural Resources Conservation Service in Rutland.
I didn't hear the part about he's skeptical about.
Skeptical about dam repairs.
Dam? Would that be Danvers Dam?
I assume so, yeah.
It says Money Brook.
This is that study that was the last select board meeting, or not, the last town meeting when Tom had made the suggestion that he spearhead it and try and get a study done. And this is that study moving forward.
What are they investigating?
The erosion up in Money Brook, if they can get up there, mitigate it, and how so, what it would entail. It's like do the study, figure out what it needs, and then, that was step one.
So are they aware of all of the kind of quote unquote mitigation that V-Trans is planning on doing below Money Brook on the road, the bypass culverts and road closures?
That they were talking about the last time, at the last meeting,
Wells.
or 2 meetings ago? I'm not sure. I mean, that's a good question. If you would think they'd want to coordinate with them, because if they do something at the top and it doesn't work at the bottom. This is more of this was more of an independent thing as opposed to being involved with the state, right? Am I wrong on that? This study was more independent than it was state.
Yeah, it's more like it's federal money, like trying to help solve the problems. So I don't know if they're communicating or not.
So when you said that, they said, I think I heard you say it's fully funded, are they just talking about the study is fully funded?
Yeah.
Or the mitigation is fully
No, that would be the study.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Richard? Yes?
Yeah, if I could explain a little bit, this was an application we put into the National Conservation Association, who's at Fed level, to try to get some money for the engineering report that was needed for Amherst Dam, and then we tied in Money Brook at the same time, because both of that Amherst Lake, Money Brook, of course, is everybody, but what we've asked them to do, because we don't know what the repair costs would be for the dam itself. And so we've been working with Les Wright and the state of Vermont, and we were not able to get any funding there. And there was a program that opened up at the federal level that we applied to. And the reason why you're getting those letters is because the Amherst Dam is privately owned, and any funding from the federal level cannot go to a private organization. It has to go to a sponsor organization. The sponsor organization is the town of Plymouth. So any funding from the federal level comes to the town of Plymouth, and then the town of Plymouth allocates out those funds. And so what you're hearing in that letter from Les is basically saying they're getting the funding to get the engineering study done to tell us what work needs to be done to remediate the problems at Amherst Lake, both on the dam side and on the Money Brook side. And because this is a federal program, it's got to fit into their template. And that's why he's a bit more leery about Amherst Lake needs fitting into the template as opposed to Money Brook. So there's no work to be done in any of that. It's simply a report to come to us to tell us what needs to be done, or what can be done, and what can't be done.
Yeah, we batted the language around when we were putting that letter together. I went through a couple of different iterations until we got to the final.
Right, so you remember the letter that Harris sent out?
Yeah, Tom, yeah.
Yeah, so, because the town has to be the sponsor of
Yeah.
of the funds. Now, our hope is they'll say, yes, there's something we can do, and we can use the federal money that was allocated for infrastructure for a national conservation program that will remediate all of this that we have.
No, it's good. Sounds like it's a good step in the right direction.
Fingers crossed. By the way, just to make sure it doesn't close it down from the guy.
Yeah, I
Other
think
than your time and mine.
that was the linchpin of the language in the letter in terms of, I think that's what we finally settled on, that the town wouldn't necessarily be, held liable for any cost unless the town voted on it.
Yeah, there is.
Good. All right. Town building renovation update, right?
The renovation project that we completed in phase one was about 2/3 of the whole project. And phase two, which we're about to embark on, is the other third of the project. Now that is fully funded, and we have a budget. And for those of you that has been following this, we put it out to bid. We had one bidder. It was way over budget. I've spent a couple of meetings with the contractor in his Rutland office developing deducts from the project, and we're having an extremely hard time getting down to the budget without taking out a large portion of the project scope, which they really didn't want to do. So we're at a point now where the best way to proceed, in my mind, is to GC the project as a town. I've gone through the process of bidding the subcontract work myself, bidding the material packages. I know what it's going to take to pull this together. I can state that, to the best of my ability, I believe we can bring this final phase of this project in within budget and do 100% of the project without having to take large portions of it out and wait for a rainy day to do it down the road. I'm pretty confident, I'm very confident that we can do that. Now, there are two reasons why I wanted to recommend that. One is the financial reason. We just can't seem to come to terms with the contractor. But I just found out, they've been dragging their feet. Their estimator hasn't been putting due diligence into repricing things like we've asked them to, and it took me a while to figure out what was going on. They just weren't doing their job like they did in phase one. It was the same contractor. But I found out they're selling their business. They're closing their doors. So all this effort was for naught. They're selling their business to Naylor and Breen in Brandon, which is a good contractor. I know those folks up there. I know who runs that business, and I know the estimator and the chief project manager, and they could do a good job. But the problem is they're a larger contractor capable of doing larger projects, and this would be a very small project for them if they would even take it on. There are just too many questions out there that are unknown right now, and it just keeps going on and on and on, and that sale is going to take several more weeks, and I don't even know if Naylor and Breen is going to want to even do the project or not. So for us to move forward, we need to GC it ourselves. And I can tell you that I'm very confident we can bring it in on budget, do 100% of the project, and there's only one caveat to that, and I can sum it up in one word: tariffs. That's tariffs. Here's where I think we're at. I don't think it's a deal breaker. It will affect our budget a little bit. I don't know how much. I made some calls today just to check on some of the major equipment pieces. And this phase is made up of 8 or 9 heat pumps on this project to take care of this building. And the specifications call for a Mitsubishi, I'm not saying that right, but heat pumps. And I found out that they're made in Japan, not China, which is good. Their warehouse in Georgia, they have a big complex down there where they warehouse and distribute from. But listen to this. Guess what? They go through Mexico before they come to Georgia. So there is a factor there. But in addition to just the equipment pieces that may have some price increases, there's other things that we can't forecast. Transportation, there's so many things we get from Canada in the building trades around here. If I was building a house right now, I'd be really scared, because you not only get lumber from Canada, we get roof shingles, asphalt, roofing materials, insulation, sheetrock, Portland cement, which is a component of ready-mix concrete. Having said all that, I still think we can bring this in budget. It's just another problem that we have to solve. Construction is full of problems. You get a new one every day. You focus on it. You look at your options. You solve it. And you move forward. I don't think it's a deal breaker at all. I still think we can bring this in on budget. And we're having a kickoff meeting later this week with our primary subcontractors. And we're going to be issuing contracts, purchase orders, get our material packages out there so we can try and beat any price increases. So we're ready to charge ahead. And that's where we're at. Hello, Bruce.
When you began phase one, you were looking at future problems with supply chain, and you were ordering a lot of material up front.
We were.
That you knew you were going to need.
That's true.
What about doing that with the Mitsubishi heat pumps? now, while before there's any issues with the Mexican.
No, that's exactly what we intend to do, Bruce. I'd like to get them ordered this week, but technically, we should go through a shop drawing process where we submit them to the engineer, we give him 2 weeks to review it, he cuts us loose, says, yes, that's exactly what we want, and then we order them. So we're starting that process. And like I said, we're having a kickoff meeting later this week, and the direction of the contractors were, show me your POs, I want to get this stuff ordered. So we're charging ahead.
Who's the sub for the HVAC company?
I'm sorry?
Who's the sub contract for the HVAC system?
ARC Mechanical is the mechanical
Turner,
Huh?
Did we speak to Turner at all out of Rutland?
Turner Piping?
Yeah.
No.
No.
One of the things that came up in the bid that came back from VMS is they wouldn't certify that they would qualify for the grant, Build America, Buy America grant,
Yep.
which is a big chunk, the
I,
whole thing. So I just was curious if is that a green program, or is that something that might be in jeopardy?
no, it's a legitimate program, and I've dealt with that in the past, but it turns out in this case, it doesn't apply. And here's what happened, Carol. I read the grant agreement, and I saw it listed in way toward the end of that grant, but I missed the word that those conditions apply, Build America, Buy America, and Davis-Bacon Act, which is your prevailing wage. They'll apply with federally funded projects. It turns out this project is state funded, not federally funded. And I had this reviewed by the grant writer, who told me that it is not applicable. Although it's language in the contract, it's boilerplate language that they throw in there on their grants writing of the contracts, but it doesn't apply because we're not, that project, this phase of this project, that $500,000 grant we got is state funded, not federally funded, and that lets us off the hook.
Right.
So it's not applicable.
in jeopardy in any way.
Yeah. Actually, you raised a good question, and that's why I started doing some more research on it. And I missed the part that it was federally funded, or I just didn't know it was federally funded until I started asking more questions. So we're off the hook. Yeah, that's substantial. Yeah. Davis-Bacon Acts are funny. Most of the time, it's pretty close to what you'll see around here, but every once in a while, there's a weird, I don't know how they come up with it. Pipe insulators, a specialty sub that comes in, insulates pipes and stuff like that. $74 an hour. That's the rate, prevailing rate under Davis-Bacon. Yeah, so you can see
Good job.
there are some things that are really out of whack in that, but I don't know where they got their numbers from. Okay, so there you have it. Any questions?
Well, thank you for jumping in on that.
Yeah.
If you order fast, Mexico, Canada tariffs are suspended for 30 days.
Yeah.
So you've got a 30-day window.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, we'll
How quick can I get on?
we'll get our orders out there for sure. You know, early on, when we first realized we had a real serious budget problem, Keith had suggested to me that why don't we GC the project? And I don't want to say I didn't take him serious, I did, but I realized, and I do now, that that's a lot of extra work, it's a little bit of extra liability on the town, and I just tried to stay away from going down that road, but turns out that is the best choice right now.
Still a lot of work.
We'll get it done.
Thanks for taking it on, Rick. I know it's another hobby for you.
You got nothing to do, right?
Yeah. Fish aren't biting that good right now, so. Okay.
All right, this brings us to the discussion of a lawsuit pending against the town of Plymouth.
Good town.
Rick, I mean, your name is on this, but this is a scribe error that you said?
That's not correct.
Okay.
That's my law firm that represents me in my real estate and other transactions, and they had a scribe error on it, which you should have been notified by your town attorney about that.
The second, I don't believe we have, but we did see the second document, the plaintiff is listed as Pepper Tepperman.
That,
For some.
that's correct.
Yeah, you're not the plaintiff on, Pepper's the plaintiff. Yeah, right.
I saw that and went through the roof. But he told me it was a scribe error, they mixed up some documents over in their office. What I do know about it is it's all got to do with Bethany Birches.
It does, yeah.
That's what I know.
Okay. So according to the attorney, this is kind of funky. They don't really know how to proceed. So they're waiting for something more, is my understanding. I did run this by the Vermont League of Cities and Towns attorney and then send it to our attorney, Mr. Moove's office. And the short of it is that Bethany Birches is a 501c3, a nonprofit charitable organization, and the town has voted twice on this, and the Secretary of State's office generally does not undo things voted on by towns.
But I do know, because I was privy, I asked them for a copy of this letter. 2017, there was a letter from the Secretary of State's office that was sent to the town listeners. That the last paragraph explicitly, in black and white, said, even if the town votes to exempt Bethany Birches, they cannot be made exempt because they're not considered to be that type of organization. So somebody's wrong here.
Yes, both the Vermont League attorney concurred that this was wrong and our attorney concurred that this was wrong.
But there are parts of it that are right according to the statute
Yep.
that are expressly right.
Yep.
And even in terms of the case itself. And I had originally responded to Pepper when she sent this letter, and I did a pretty thorough, and I said, I prefaced it by saying, I am of course not an attorney, but I'm gonna, give you my honest read of the letter. And in so reading the letter, I mean, it clearly states that the burden of proof, I'll read it exactly to you. You've probably read it already, Rick, but it says the burden is on the person claiming the benefit of the exemption, and the exemption statutes must be strictly construed against that person. So as I read that, and I'm not an attorney, but it seems to imply that the burden of proof is on Bethany Birches, and if this suit were to be brought, which it has been, it should be leveled and levied against the camp and not the town, because the person claiming the exemption is not the town, it's the camp itself, whether it's religious. I mean, I can go into that if you wish. I have my own view of that categorization, but I don't see why why sue the town, sue the camp. They're the one claiming the exemption, not us.
I don't know, I'm not an attorney either, but I know.
That was my honest read of it, which I presented to Pepper. And
So maybe the courts will say you need to take action against Bethany Birches, because whether you guys believe it or not, during those town meetings, the representative of Bethany Birches misrepresented everything to everybody.
I mean, the letter came from an assistant AG, so it's not like it came from it wasn't written by a
But it's pretty
intern.
powerful. It says the state says you can't exempt from tax. Now, and I know what you're saying, but you know my feeling on this whole thing, and I tell you, I'm talking as a resident now that I've established residency up here. This is going to be a big pain, because I'm hearing from dozens of people every week of how upset they are, not at the education taxes, which is the town of our state. That's fine, I agree with this. And hopefully the new legislator that get voted in will start putting an end to this silliness. But when they represented themselves last year, they knew that there was this 15-20% tax increase coming in, and they didn't say it in front of the people here. So everybody's taxes didn't just go up $100 a month. They went up several $100s a month, because they're not paying $92,000 anymore. They're paying significantly more because of the real estate increase. That was all well known, and it just wasn't brought up to the people, the citizens of this town. Right? And obviously, when I tried to speak at that, there was a person out there who shot it down, which is fine, but that's not going to happen anymore. So, I'm in a position where I can afford this. I'm lucky, but the hurt it's causing our elderly people in this town is astronomical. I have people coming in crying I had a guy in the other day, he says, Rick, because of this, I can't afford my 6-pack of beer.
Are you talking about the tax burden in general, or the tax burden specific to this
Residential
exemption?
Pretty significant, Keith. You don't understand, even $100, $200 a year is a lot for some people, a lot. And I see it every day.
According to the math and within contained therein, the case language itself, it boils down to be $8.90 per $100,000 assessment. So on a $300,000 house, that's about 27 bucks. I'm not saying it's less, more, whatever, it's a lot, it's not. I'm just saying that's what the raw numbers are.
It's still unethical and immoral that somebody's forced to pay a religious institution's taxes, which is right in violation of the USS Constitution.
I tend, and I've said this to you before in other meetings on the subject, I tend to agree with you. However, if it's, this is a legal case, and if we're looking at the statute itself, 32 VSA 383-2,
I read it all.
the exemption itself, if you read the exemption, if we follow the letter of the statute, they are not wholly exempt. This letter is correct. They are not wholly exempt, but they can be partially exempt if you just based on the language of the statute, because it says, okay, the exemption from taxation of real and personal estate granted, sequestered, or used for public, pious, or charitable uses shall not be construed as exempting real estate owned or kept by a religious society other than a church edifice, a parsonage, the outbuildings of the church edifice or parsonage, a building used as a convent, school, orphanage, home, or hospital, land adjacent to any of the buildings named in this subdivision, kept and used as a parking lot, not used to produce income, lawn, playground, or garden, and so-called glebe lands. So within that language there, if all that property that they own is not exempt, one could make a very strong argument that some of the property that they own, contiguous to some of these buildings, could be exempt. So, and that's me looking at it and reading it. I'm not an attorney, but I read the statute.
I disagree with that completely. I'm sorry. I read it in and out, and I actually talked to some of my attorneys in Massachusetts about it. But there's other places around here, other religious organizations in the state of Vermont, they were denied. The same vote. It's better than
Bethany Birches is also recreation. Sorry, Richard?
Yes, how much is this gonna cost the town of Plymouth in legal fees?
Good question, we're just getting started.
Because this could be more than the taxes that we're letting them, or that we're forgiving them on for 5 years. And so, you let them go for 5 years, and now it's gonna cost us X amount more for us being the nice people in the town. So, I mean, we need to look at that whole cost of this to the town of Plymouth, because that $24 or $28 that everybody was told was gonna cost them, more in taxes, that may be a lot more than Rich's $200. So we gotta look at that.
Well, it's just, you gotta look at market. Right now, that bill on my business is $9,000 in education taxes alone. Take that money, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. There's no way under the sun that I'm gonna be held to pay a religious organization's taxes. You can't do it. And if this has to make its way all the way to the Supreme Court, well, believe me.
So you're gonna make yourself a plaintiff on the lawsuit? Is that the?
No, I won't.
Let's check it.
But you brought up a good point. It shouldn't be against the town of Plymouth.
Right.
It should be against Bethany Birches. And I agree with that.
So why would the lawsuit cost the town of Plymouth?
Because we're the town that said no.
Because we're the defendant, we gotta pay the lawyer to defend us.
I thought the defendant was Bethany.
Well, that was the point I was making, that according to the statute as I read it, it should be.
Town of Plymouth.
No, because Plymouth's been sued already, so we have to handle the case.
I think the point of contention in this suit arises from the fact that the select board made a decision to allow a vote according to statute, which is clear within the statute. If there is a exemption to be honored within this, you categorizing this as a religious organization. If you check that box, that needs to go to this town-wide vote. which it did, and we follow the statute as it's laid out. And I don't see how, we didn't necessarily do anything wrong. We allowed the vote as we have in the past. The kernel lies in the interpretation of the exemption itself. Can it be exempt? And if so, what can be exempt? If anything, or partially.
And I think,
It's going to depend on how a judge reads it. That's it.
it is.
I'm a little unclear, is this suit going forward against the town, or is it being shifted against
At present,
Bethany Birches?
at present it's for the town.
No, it's against the town. They want us to, they want the court to issue a stay to prevent the exemption and to refund any amount that's been, that's any burden that's been placed on the taxpayers to date should be refunded to the taxpayer.
So is the suit to reverse the vote?
It says to issue a stay. It means to
Stop it from happening this year. What was that?
stop it from being coming in force, to be no longer enforceable.
I'm asking you to read the taxes that they can pay.
Anyway,
Or is it?
the process is gonna be backwards.
I have a question.
To that 2017 letter, why was that letter never paid attention to back 8 years ago? Because honestly, I think that letter was buried somewhere, and it should have been shown to everybody.
They shot holes in that letter, the guy at the beach.
I mean, point number, in the case itself, paragraph, section 26, the extent that BBC views its primary mission as helping young people develop their relationship with God, and its primary use of camp property is serving BBC's religious and spiritual mission, then although some of the property and buildings may be exempted as pious use by a religious society, if so categorized, okay, then it's saying exactly what I was just saying myself.
I know, but most of their property, how much of their property is in current use? So they aren't getting an exemption. It's like double dipping. It's really, what about the rest of us? That do pay our taxes. Why didn't I declare Chloe's Market as a nonprofit? Because I don't have to take any profits from it. Everything goes to my rescues.
I agree with most of the points that were made in their letter, and they all dovetail what you're saying now. I'm just looking at the case itself.
And I know we're beating a dead horse here, but I'll tell you something, I'm totally anti-tax on this type of stuff. I mean, it's just not morally or ethically correct. And that's not what this country was built on. Two things, separation of church and state. You cannot use public funds to pay taxes on a religion.
The attorney disagreed with you, so we can, I think it's time to
I'm
move
not
on
having
to
a
this.
conversation with them, but that's okay.
Update on Campground Road.
I know, I don't know who's familiar with that issue or not, but we had a turnaround established on Campground Road. New property owner came in, said we can't turn around there. That means we're backing a truck out onto Route 100 on a blind turn, extremely dangerous. Nobody wants to do it. We're trying to establish a right-of-way with the owner, allowing us to use an established right-of-way that we've been using for the last 40 years. So the attorney was in town last week, did a site visit with Larry, and he's supposed to come out with a letter this week, I think, addressing the concerns, trying to determine whether it's a legal right-of-way or not, and if we have a legal right to turn around on this, what I would call an established right-of-way. So it's still up in the air, nothing's been determined. We're still arguing about it. Or trying to resolve it, I should say.
Where's Campground Road anyway?
Right across from right where you are, Richard, I think it's just a
I
road.
never heard of it. I'm looking it up.
I don't know where the road is.
If you go down toward Amherst, it's a right-hand turn. Down by Amherst.
That was last time, 100?
Yeah.
Yeah, to go down 100 toward Amherst and it's a right-hand turn.
There's Scout Camp Road, and then you're saying there's campground?
Opposite side of the road.
It's up on the hill.
Yeah.
It goes up, you can't really.
So near the Echo Lake Inn?
Now,
No, way before that.
Where does it come in?
It's right up on.
It's a dead-end road, Richard. It's a dead-end road.
It goes up.
From
It's
here
up on top there.
I
You're going fast enough, you wouldn't even see it.
Yes.
Is the issue that the owner doesn't want you turning
Sorry?
around?
Yes, that is correct.
Is there only one house?
Yeah, yeah.
We're not sure why. Lights from the truck sometimes.
Where a fire truck can't turn around?
No, a fire truck can't turn up in there.
But are there other roads like that? Yes.
There may be, but I know there's language in the zoning ordinance where new roads and new developments have to have the turnaround. And there's language in the footage on exactly how to do this, but the intent was so fire trucks can turn around for new roads, but established dead-end roads, no.
This is a particular one, previous owner,
But they were not full time, right? And some residents live in there full time now, so they're.
So we'll figure something out.
Discussion on elimination of lister's position and assessor being added to the ballot.
So what's the thought, what's the thought behind that?
So an assessor is one person that would be running the office rather than a quorum of 3.
And appointed and not elected.
Correct.
And what's the impact on the budget?
We think it'll be negligible.
Evens out, you mean?
Yep.
And they would be a full-time employee?
No.
How many hours a week do you think?
Probably about the combination of hours now between 3 people. So what do we have? Natasha, can you tell us how many hours?
I would think about 20 hours should be enough. Maybe an assistant, even less. So the combination would be working very, very well. I have a little bit of the report on what we did this year, what I did this year actually for my report. You can take a look and read it. And I also put some my recommendations, why recommendations also come from the state. So our International Association of Assessing Officers made huge research on how the houses are assessed in Vermont. They put out a survey, extensive survey, and they put forward those recommendations to move for the employee assessors. And also, Department of Taxes, PDR, they also recommend to move forward with assessors.
We've heard this across the state, and one thing that's required to know is level 3 assessor training,
Yes.
right, to hold that position. Carol, you have a question?
No, I just have a comment. So I don't know, has anyone talked to Bridgewater? Because they had listers, and they went to an assessor for a couple of years. A very good assessor up in Burlington or wherever. And then they got rid of the assessor and went back to the listers.
They say why?
I haven't asked, this is the first I've seen of
The
this.
assessor was from New Jersey.
Well, and
Boy, I think Henry had his hand up.
this year is doing it.
I'm sure you all know that I've had a history of appeal of assessments on my property here in Plymouth. And through the years, and this has been going on since 2008, all the way up to the Supreme Court. And it's just my view that to reduce the listers to a supervisor who sits in an office is the wrong way to go. You need listers who understand the properties that get out of their office and actually do the reviews that they're trained to do, not depend upon a consultant who's got criteria they can't even find in their computer programs. I just think reducing it to one supervisor who sits in an office.
What makes you think they're just gonna sit in their office?
Because they do now.
So if you get an assessor, like their job will be to go out and look at properties. They're actually required to take training. It's a much higher level of training.
Well,
Assessors go out and visit properties.
Yes.
Yes. Data collection is the part of the business, of the work. And that is, we don't have a lot of, let's put it that way, a lot of cases when we have to go and do data collection. So we usually, when it happens, when we get a zoning application and something changes, a project changes, and then we need to visit those properties and basically we take care of all those property cards. I mean, assessor takes care of the property cards, so they're accurate. So you get valuation of your property, land and building, according to what you actually have or don't have. So if you demolish your barn, or if you demolish, or if you build your house, like you've done recently, so your house will have to be assessed. And I believe it's already been done. So if there are changes with the land, like mergers or subdivisions, something's changes there. So assessor also has to take care of it. But it's not, it's only small, it's actually enjoyable part of the work. Believe it or not, because you're going out there.
So Natasha, did you just make a statement that you were actually applying to be the assessor? Is that what you're?
That was what I was gonna
If town wants.
No, because it says right here that you have reported the town assessor to Plymouth taxpayers and select board members. They were there 25. That's for
Yes.
you.
I am an assessor, so, and I want to say, I guess,
I also heard
avoidable,
that
so
the assessment of
There's a
my
time with a
house
table over.
is done already.
yes.
But who has been in that house? From the
I believe, Michelle Pinky was,
Who?
Pinky was, Michelle and Michael.
How did she get in the house?
I know that it was,
It's not even-
it's in the system. It's
I have
already-
invited the listers into the house. I invite anyone from the town to come into the house. If you're coming in as an assessor, I hope you'll talk to me about what you think are the criteria for making an assessment, and don't send me the assessment with a day and a half to appeal it,
Right.
which is what happened last year. I'm starting to get frustrated.
Now, as you talk about this, though, I mean, we will have to interview an assessor to appoint one, and customer service is gonna be,
Customer service.
yes, being able to speak with people.
So, Mr. Shipman, when you invited me to check your lab, so I could correctly list and describe your lab in the system. So I came and I met you and I spoke with you and your wife, so I did that part. And we agreed with you that you invited actually me to come. And it's on the schedule, I will come as well.
But if you change something in my assessment based on that review, I would hope that you talk to me about it.
I
And
have
make sure that
issues.
you interpreted your visit appropriately, because my understanding talking to you is there's still confusion about whether that land on the east side of Route 100 is excess land, or is deeded separately, or is not excess land as part of the 2 acres that is not included in the land use program. And the confusion that's going on with my property, with you and the other assessors over the last, listers, excuse me. But, you know, since 2008, I don't think I'm unreasonable to ask for evidence and discussion and negotiation and resolution of conflict. Instead, I've got to go up to the Supreme Court.
And just that one thing is, the only thing I would advocate keeping the 3 listers is because when it comes down to a decision, you can't have one person in charge making that, because the next step, and you all know I went through this with the store, because somebody in the room here who didn't follow the rules, okay? I went ballistical. I'm with Henry on this, I'm not gonna go through it again. There's a reason to be professional and courteous, and it's not happening right now with certain people, all right? If you keep 3, you have 1 and 1, or 2 and 1s, or all together. It's like a judging panel. You can't just have one person have all that power, and I think to Carol's point, which, you know, I love this, is that you need those independent people and somebody who's able to broker with their personality conflicts, which I'm gonna tell you right now, Mike Coleman does an awesome job at that. He really does. He goes out and engages with the constituents, and I've never heard a bad thing about him with anybody who's come to him.
Mike is in support of an assessor, by the way.
I know he is, and I'm trying to convince him not to do it. But it's, I think it's important. It's like 3 select board. Why do we only not have 1 select board? Because you need, I don't remember.
And it's also not the final thing, right? I mean, you can come and read your taxes if you think something is wrong with your assessment.
But you only have, there's another little mechanism there where you've got 3 people who take into different consideration, because everybody brings a different viewpoint, which I think is, like, each one of you bring a different view to this table, which I think is invaluable. You have to have counterbalancing opinions and talk it out. But when you have one person who's acting as judge, jury, in some cases executioner, and to Carol's point, I know that's why Bridgewater went back, because it wasn't working. Because you've got to have that ability to be able to connect with someone. And it may not be you, it may not be you, it might be Rick.
So we got a couple, but sorry, Keith, I mean.
No, I can go now. Do you want me to go now? You
Yeah,
wanna
then
go?
we've got, let's see, Richard had his hand,
Yeah.
Bruce had his hand, and then Beth,
Quick.
after you.
The problem is you go from 3 to 1. You go to the listeners with a grievance, right? And what do? They bring in an expert that knows very little about Plymouth, who tells you how much the property is worth. And when I had a discussion with him and I said, well, where's your background? And it was upstate New York. And I was like, you're not even from the region. And you're, opining on the value of our properties. So maybe if you have an assessor, you have someone that's got authority. I don't know. All I know is, saying you have 3, and I love that idea, right? If they could come to a consensus and make the decision. But it doesn't. It goes up to that next step. And that's where we get hung up. Because your next step is bringing it to a professional assessor who is not from here.
The next step.
Oh, wait, so it was Bruce, and then Beth, and then Henry, right?
I'm sorry. Well, my opinion on this is that a proper assessor would be 100% better than the listers system that we use now. You have an assessor who is educated in that role and you hire him. You're getting one person who is truly an expert rather than 3 people as good as they are and as much as we love them as individuals. They're not going to come to the job 100% like a good assessor would. And as far as that is concerned, people being worried that he's judge and jury and all of that business, he's still an assessor, and you still have recourse through the Board of Civil Authority if you have problems with the assessor's assessment.
Yes.
So it's not putting anybody at risk. It should save the town money, first of all, and it should produce better results.
So I guess it's a question. My question is, if we have one assessor just like people, excuse me, thanks. You have one person who's the assessor, whoever it is, if there is a question or an abatement or whatever, they have to go against the board anyway, so that one assessor is not making the final decision, if I'm understanding what their role is.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Yes.
Henry, Keith?
I agree with Rick. I don't, we came to this decision not as, not in unanimity, and we were unanimous in our decision. I agree with Rick. I see retaining elected officials from the local community as being very important. I like the theory behind it. It's like the theory of the select board. We're just, average chumps here serving. It's supposed to be the same in theory with the listers. They know the property, you know them, yada, yada. Great, that's theory. In praxis, I think this town is suffering like most of Vermont small towns from a lack of interest and a lack of resources and a lack of, people wanting to commit to the overall community of it. And we have ongoing staffing, personnel issues in this office that can be debilitating. And one of the major reasons that we're presenting this to the voters is as a workaround to that, to effectively professionalize the office and do away with a lot of the, mediocrity and just, is it the perfect way? Probably not. Is there value in having the listers? I think so. I agree. I think I worked with Mike for, going on 7 years on the zoning board. I mean, he gets stuff done. Without him, a lot of things are going to fall apart. Michelle has been doing the job, love her, hate her, whatever, for 20 something years. She knows the properties in this town, inside and out. That's valuable to me. However, like I just said, that everything is going in a way, pretty soon there won't be, we'll have chat GTP and there'll be some bots sitting here, do away with select board too, it doesn't matter. But in the meantime, we've got to do something to make the town run. So you all will ultimately decide on, town meeting day, what you want to do, because it's a vote the town's going to make. And that's that.
Also Henry and then Carol.
Two items. If you go to a single assessor, are the protocol or procedures or law structure for appealing what the assessor says the same as what they are for listers?
Yes.
No.
Carol?
Yeah, my only comment
Look, I'm not
would be that
finished.
he had,
Oh, I'm sorry, Carol. Another point that I forgot to cover.
that we have progressed over the last couple of years from a number of the town positions going from elected to appointed. So that's just something that people should consider, that, pretty soon we're not electing anymore.
It'll just be, right?
Town clerk.
It'll just be the select
Pretty
board
soon we'll
left.
stop electing.
I forget.
Practically just appoint each other.
You're absolutely right there.
Well,
You could vote, the next vote could be, do we get rid of the select board and have a town manager?
Oh,
I mean, why not? I mean, why have one guy run the whole thing? Screw it. I mean, pay him. Huh?
We should have a king.
A king, we's a king.
Okay, so Dave, you haven't spoken yet?
Yeah, so my understanding this would eliminate all three listers positions?
Correct.
We only have one, so.
Correct. And then if there's an assistant to do some clerical work from time to time, that may be, just depending on the workload. And everybody remember, we're about to go through a reappraisal pretty soon too, so the field's gonna be set.
That's another also reason I wanted to point out. So it's going to be serious change in town. So when we will be going into the appraisal, we're changing computer system completely. We went migrating all the data from one system to another. And the state requires, and this is the largest part of this all right? Us requires to support right now, it's almost like 5 applications, different applications. You have to have a professional who would know and understand everything. And cooperation in this sense is imperative. So it has to be a person who can understand and grasp what has to be done. And it's a lot of work. Right now, as much as you love people who is being elected, but it's broken. There's no communication going on at all. So let's say somebody went to or didn't go to Mr. Shipman's house, but already assessed it. So what did they use? Who knows? They probably used some of your blueprints of your house, and this is how they assessed it. And I have no input on that. I don't. Mike does he has input on this? Who be? So.
I'm sorry.
Natasha, are you finished?
I guess I.
I'm sorry.
But if the town has assessed my house, when it's not finished construction, had entry to the house without me being there,
I don't know anything about this.
I don't know anything about it either.
I don't know about this either, so but we,
And I am-
it's a very question actually.
I'm sorry, Natasha, please.
So you're saying something we do not know is true.
Okay,
We don't have answers for you about this.
so my second point for keeping people, either an assessor or listers, is find someone that knows how to resolve conflict, to be involved, to have sticks in the fire, not standing behind a computer saying, this is the way the consultant says it has to be. That isn't resolving the conflict.
So, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's right. Just to address one of the points you just made, Henry. You have issues with a report that listers came into your house, right? And that's disturbing. I understand that. Us as a board, we can't do a thing about it because they're elected officials. Whether an appointed assessor, you can come to this board and we have to take action. Right now, we can't do a thing about it. All right? But as an appointed assessor, we're responsible for managing that assessor. And if you have a complaint that they can't resolve, you can come to this board, and it's our responsibility to address it.
I understand, Richard, but as a lister, I have the authority to take action against the listers. You may not because they're elected, but I can. And my history is that I can find rational people who are not involved with the town to believe the town is making a mistake by not resolving the conflicts at the lowest level. And that's what I'm afraid is where you're headed.
We're looking to improve. That's our goal. Bruce?
Why don't you make it an elected
Officially, I think that Mr. Shipman is, I understand his concerns first off, but I think he's anticipating the downside rather than the upside. And I think the upside far outweighs the downside. A professional assessor is not going to make the same kind of mistakes that you see from unprofessionals who become listers. The unfortunate side to the elected position, no matter what it is in a small town in particular where there's not a lot of money spent getting the message out, on who's this and who can do that. It becomes a popularity contest. And people get elected not because of their expertise or because of their knowledge, but rather because of who they know or who knows them. And
So
that happens.
it does, and
I can't avoid it.
I think it's improved so much since we've appointed a town clerk, a delinquent tax collector, and a treasurer. Like, the office runs great, and the work is getting done,
Huge improvement.
and they're accountable to the select board, not the voters.
And I anticipate having an assessor, a professional in place, will be another huge improvement for every homeowner and property owner in the town.
Henry, did you want to add?
I would disagree with Bruce a little bit in that I don't care whether they're elected or appointed, whether I think the
There's a
point is
difference.
if there's one, then you've got a problem. If there's three, you have a chance of a discussion and problem resolution.
I'd rather discuss with one person than a committee any day.
Oh, it depends on which person. In my history, since 2007.
Who wants to be appointed? Come on, raise your hand. Let's there. Somebody. Elaine.
Would you like to give that?
No? Tried.
No, I mean, seriously, Rick and Keith, I mean, if we appoint an assessor, I think we're looking for somebody that's gonna provide good service to the town. We're gonna take this serious.
Well, yeah,
And this is
That's the whole point of appointing.
Somebody.
right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't appoint to appoint,
Yeah.
whatever.
We're not
Hey.
looking for another hobby to manage somebody.
So I'm just confused because when Natalia wrote this thing that's over there in front of the office, she signed it, respectfully submitted, Natalia, I didn't say it wrong, sorry. Borchard, town assessor.
Yes.
So,
He's not going to explain.
So you've got you're certified because you took a bunch of classes, right?
Yes, I did. Yes, I'm actually,
but
yes.
you're not a town assessor.
I know. Well, I am.
No, you're not.
No, yes, I know. All right.
I think we can all read the statute around this if we want to know more.
So, my predecessor, she resigned. She was elected by town of Plymouth, but she resigned before her term was over. And I was hired as an assessor in her position. So I've been in this position for almost a year. And now, yeah.
You were hired as an assessor?
Yes, instead of, yes. No, that was because it has to be key. Right.
Lister.
Lister is.
I know what a lister is, I know what an assessor is.
Right.
And you just said you were the town assessor.
Yes.
Lister.
Yes.
Men Lister.
Yeah, we pointed.
That was
we pointed
confusing for me.
But I have been certified, so the last year I took all required property valuation and review courses, and I was certified in order certification.
It's just very misleading, that's all, I'm sorry.
Assessor level 1.
No, I read your write-up, but it's misleading.
So just one thing to clarify, in case this wasn't crystal clear, what will happen if this passes and the town votes to have an assessor? We will advertise like any position, we will go through an interview process, and we will look at the best candidate that's appropriate for the job. It's as simple as that.
No, I appreciate that.
I think it's a great point, Rick, but I'm going back to what Keith and I were talking about. If all you guys leave, when we get a group of 3 people who want to appoint a friend of theirs, that's going to happen. So this is where you get a little dodgy in the gray area about appointing or electing. You guys are fair, there's no doubt about it. But things change, and all of a sudden, hey, I want to bring my friend in to do this. And we've seen it happen. That, you gotta cut out.
That's what the voters gotta hold people accountable here, including us.
That's why we're doing all this, because
It's like husband and wife gets elected as a lister. So we will have husband and wife listers. So, and that is a quorum.
no, we won't allow it.
Henry?
One last comment, Natasha. You're the one that said my house has been assessed.
Yes,
And the
I've seen it in the
The
evidence.
board, excuse me, please listen. The board is saying that's a rumor. If it is not a rumor, I'm publicly asking you to send me a letter with the new assessment as soon as possible. Is that clear?
And to be clear, this board does not know. We don't know the activities of the list.
I have complete confidence in what you're telling me, Jay. I do not have complete confidence in what's going on in this office. And I want to know if someone has been in my house and assessed it, Michelle, if Mike, I invited Mike in the house as I did Jay. And I invited Mike in because he needs to be aware for the assessment when it's made. And I hope to be around to negotiate that assessment. If it's been done behind my back by Michelle or by Natasha, I am going to be furious because that is not the problem resolution that I'm looking for to move forward with this town. I don't want to go to court again. I want to resolve it at my level and have conflict resolution we can both walk away from without you guys spending a bunch on court costs and me spending a bunch trying to convince the courts.
Can I to kind of address what Mr. Shipman's saying? So many people post stuff on Facebook, it's become like the trash of the town, I'm sorry about it. People should come down here for like 2 weeks, kind of silently sit and watch what goes on in these 2 offices to see what the problem is. You would find out really clear what goes on down here. When people come in, the lack of communication, trying to
put one person out instead of acting like adults down here. Come and see, then you may vote a different way.
I understand that, and I understand personality differences, but I do not understand somebody claiming there's an assessment on my new house, and I haven't seen it. And it's in a public meeting, and I'm asking publicly for the town to stand up and either give me that assessment now, instead of so late that I can't appeal it. And I have to go to an abatement. It's,
By the way, I was there on a social visit, I didn't take any notes. I just pet the dog, you know?
It was a social visit,
Yeah.
it was a social visit for Mike. But it gives you a background, it gives personality, exchange of ideas, it allows for conflict resolution. Having an assessment done secretly does not, and I am thoroughly upset with Natasha publicly saying it's been done, and I haven't seen it. And I'll mark my
What
words.
are you upset with Natasha? She just made an observation that she shared with you. She didn't go into your house. She said other listers did. Thought maybe you were aware of that.
Change.
I don't know. Why you mad at her?
Why are you upset with me?
Because she knows my position, or should, based upon my conversations with Natasha, my invitations to have her come visit my property so she can understand what the property is. I expect there to be professional courtesy with the people I'm dealing with. And I'm dealing with you, and I'm dealing with Mike, and I am not dealing with Michelle.
Okay, I just shared
So
with
what
you
we're gonna do,
my
we're gonna put
observation.
this on hold for now. This is with the listers and Mr. Shipman tomorrow.
But I want to tell you, so that I shared with you my observations, and I told you that it's not me who have done those changes. So if you would like to get to the bottom of that, you should ask the other two. I got no communication from them about these changes whatsoever. I actually don't know what exactly they've been changing since July.
All right, so we're
I
gonna,
should, but I never got any of it.
we're gonna stop the conversation on the listers. Now, we're gonna move on to the update on the grader, which I don't have.
Okay,
So, but I will get on that soon.
it's on the list.
Okay.
No problem.
Review and sign the certificate of highway mileage form.
Oh, yeah.
Anything changed in terms of mileage?
No.
We got 55 miles?
Nope.
I'll make a motion to approve signing this certificate.
A second.
You good?
55 miles.
Yep.
Made all of
Yep,
us?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Be good to, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
What?
Certificate of highway mileage, that it directly affects our aid with the state. So we have to certify the mileage each year to keep the money coming.
People come through here?
Nope, just the
Just the mile.
mileage of
You can see
roads.
comments on
We have
that?
55 miles.
There's people can time in real time, see that?
Yes.
What-
I didn't realize that.
What are the people who came here several months ago with this ridiculous idea that they're gonna fix the bridges and shut the roads down? Aren't they supposed to come back to us and give us an alternative plan? What is
Have
it?
you heard anything on that?
Say,
They're supposed to come back in and make another presentation.
So, can we get them in here quick so we can?
Well, sometimes they like out of sight, out of mind. Maybe we should do a follow-up with them.
I would like that just because a lot, again,
Nobody's excited to have the town road 100 shut down.
no, well, I know, but St. Angela's.
Did I sign it?
You wanna come down and see things happening, you guys
Yeah,
can
you're
never sit at the
fine.
store. People are all up and down about these.
Is that
Oh,
good to
yeah.
go?
Yeah, that's good.
Not just,
It's a pain.
well, you're gonna
Yeah,
get
really?
people, like, we get a lot of traffic at the store for Bridgeland. They can't come anymore, because they're gonna go all the way down Route 4, turn up by Stevenville, Vermont, come all the way down.
Yep.
And they're like, where are we gonna go?
I understand. So we do not want this to happen.
No, I know the really logical solution is to build a little road with the traffic light, like they did in Kichi. Can you imagine if they shut that bridge down? The hell they would go? But, anyway, it's just kind of feedback, hopefully we can get them back, and I had to bring that up.
That's Kichi though, they get a traffic light, we're not gonna, Plymouth's just bad, they can wait. We'll see what happens.
If
I don't
it
want-
affects tax dollars at Killington suddenly, somehow, don't connect the dots.
Sorry, didn't mean to hijack the conversation.
Other business, let's see, the tickets for the ordinances, Angela, thanks for getting those, so we can issue citations if we actually need to in the end.
Really?
Yep. So, then it goes through the court system. Yes?
Before everyone leaves, I wanted to make a comment about the bridges that are going to be repaired. As a result of that presentation, Bridge 113 is the culvert that's right north of my house, contains the stream.
Yep.
That stream is not named according to the state. And I'm pursuing the name of Crandall Clarence Creek, just to communicate with the town. You have the CC Road, now you're gonna have the CCC Creek.
Who's
I think-
Randall Clarence?
Crandall owned the property before my grandfather Clarence bought it.
Okay, oh, interesting, oh, nice.
So it would be the Crandall Clarence Creek,
It's kind of cool.
and you have the CC Road and the C cubed Creek.
Nice.
CCR.
We'll support you.
I don't even know if it's ever gonna happen.
I love it.
It's out there for public comment.
You should probably name a bridge after Rick, after all the work he's done on this town hall renovation.
Kaminsky Memorial Highway. All 55 miles motion tonight.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Memorial Highway.
We got a couple little things left.
All right.
Carol?
I don't want to reopen this, but I just had like one quick question about why Mike and Michelle didn't come for the meeting tonight, because you mentioned Mike was in favor of the assessor position.
He may speak at town meeting about it.
Oh, okay,
You
good.
know, we could ask
That's
him.
even better. Oh, no, that's great.
It's probably a good metaphor for exactly the entire.
He usually comes to all the meetings, so I was. Thank you.
What's gonna be on the ballot for town meeting, do we know yet?
Angela does.
Yeah, it's posted, it's there.
Oh, it's up there.
This decision is for Article 2.
So if we don't
That
get
will-
the audit in time, do we get, how are we gonna?
There's like a short report that we just got.
Oh, okay, oh, they do a preliminary.
Don't take my word for it.
Sorry?
Don't take my word for it.
I think we didn't have we waited for it to happen. One time, I think we waited a year and a half once for the audit.
Yeah.
So hopefully those days are over.
South End Road.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's up with that?
So you know, we've been talking forever about, the state coming up with they're gonna get in, the engineering's been approved to look at that through Dubois and King. They awarded them a contract, at least do engineering and come up with some idea to propose to the
Good.
town.
That's a start.
So,
All right. They have a time frame?
I think they'll start it in the spring, just the engineering.
Yeah.
And I forwarded you both the letter. So, and Angela it has it too, so you can share it as you see fit. I don't think we need an executive session, do we?
I don't know of any reason.
Okay. Then I think it's warrants and mail. Oh, next select board meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Do we want one President's Day or do we want to observe that? Okay. If we have something that's timely before town meeting, we could have an emergency or special meeting? Okay. Yeah, Dave.
Are you guys at all concerned about the grants being put on hold all the time?
We
I
got
know there's an injunction now that says basically that the executive order is not enforced in place.
I got an official letter from the state because we have a couple grants in motion and they said, this is what we got. Signed from
All the current stuff in motion or was gonna, it wasn't subject. A lot of stuff already underway.
I guess there's this law called impoundment that I didn't know about, and if the Congress has approved spending, the president doesn't have the powers to stop Congress's spending. That's my understanding of it. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay.
All right.